Okay, in this video we're going to have a look at finding the circumference of a circle. This is a Year 8 topic, which is probably towards the harder end of the stuff that you actually learn during Year 8. Okay, and the only reason why it's hard is because we're not so familiar with working with circles as we are with working with stuff like rectangles, squares, maybe even including parallelograms or trapeziums, right? So it's exactly the same, it's linked to area and perimeter. This is almost like the equivalent of finding the perimeter of a circle. Now the first thing is to label what a circle is. Okay, so there's quite a few technical words to do with it. You need to know the proper names because they relate to the formulas and the workings that we're going to have a look at later on, right? So I've got three different things. I've got my blue outline, my green line then, which goes from one side to the other through the center point, and then my red line, which just goes from the center point to the outside, right? We're going to have a look at labeling them then. First one, the green line, that's called the diameter. And what the diameter is from one side to the other through the middle, okay? And I've highlighted through the middle because one side to the other sometimes may not necessarily go through the middle, okay? If it doesn't go through that middle point, it's not called a diameter. So it has to go through the middle, and it goes from one side, opposite then, to the other side. Next one, the red line is called the radius, and one side to the middle, okay? So rather than from one side all the way to the other side, it's only from one side of the circle to the middle, and hopefully you can see that to get the diameter, what you actually need is two of the radiuses, yeah? Because the radius goes from outside to middle, so you need to then go from middle to the opposite outside, if you sort of understand what I'm saying. So two of the radiuses make up my diameter. That's the link there. Last one then, the blue one, is the circumference, and what that is the distance around the outside. So imagine this was, I don't know, a roundabout in a park. Okay, it's like walking all the way around that roundabout and finding then the distance. Now the formula that I'm going to put up next, I'll explain it to you in a minute. Just have a look at it to start with, and then I'll explain what's quite strange about it, right? It says C equals, and then you've got this funny symbol, D. Okay, now this is a way of writing the formula for circumference. C stands for circumference, D stands for diameter, and that little symbol there is called pi. Okay, now pi is a Greek number which has a value of just over 3. Okay, it's actually worth 3.1415, and it goes on forever and ever. All you need to remember is that it's 3.14 basically, or 3.141. You'll never get asked to use it past that, and it's actually on a calculator. Okay, now where this symbol comes from, because at the moment it's sort of just random, it's just there, is if you actually investigate, and you may have done it in class, the link between the diameter, which is the width from one side to the other, and the circumference, which is the distance all the way around, is always roughly 3 times as big. Okay, so if you measure, and you can actually do this yourself, any circular object, so say we're measuring, I don't know, a CD, you'll find that if the diameter of the CD is, say, 6 centimeters, the circumference, the distance around the outside, is just over, I don't know, probably 18 centimeters. Or if you measure a bin lid, you'll find that the diameter could be 50 centimeters and the circumference could be 150 centimeters. Okay, so when you first look at the link, it looks like it's 3 times as big. What it actually is 3.1415 times as big, okay, and that stands for pi. So all you need to know, remember, circumference equals pi times diameter. We'll have a look at a few examples and then just basically show you how to work through them. We've got red, amber, green. We'll start with the green one, the easiest one first of all. First line is always going to be to write down my formula, right? So I'm trying to find the circumference of these circles, and I've got my diameter. So C equals pi times D, where C is circumference and D is diameter. Pi is just pi, it's a fixed number. Put then your numbers in from the diagram. C we're trying to find. Pi is a number, so you know that, okay? And D is 10. The diameter of that circle, as you can see from that diagram, is 10. Right? Type this in on your calculator. Now to get pi, because you wouldn't have done it before, what you need to do is if you press on a Casio scientific calculator, shift at the top left, and then the button, which is down by 0, which says times 10, and then the little floating to the power x next to it. So shift, and then the little times 10 to the power x, and then you'll see the pi symbol come up. Okay, so you can do that yourself, have a practice of that. Type it in. First answer you get on your calculator, it will tell you the answer is 10 pi, right? And to convert this then to an actual number that we can interpret, you need to press the SD button about halfway up, and that puts it in a number, right? So if the diameter is 10, the circumference is 31.4, right? And you can sort of understand, we said the link was 3 times as big. Well, diameter is 10, so I'm looking for my circumference to be just over 30, right? So it does make sense. Amber then, the only way in which this is harder is you're working with a decimal number rather than a whole number. C equals pi times diameter. Do I know diameter? Yes, I do, is 7.5. So my next line is just going to be C equals pi times 7.5. Type it in, you get 7.5 pi. Press the SD button and you get 23.6, okay? Again, you can sort of estimate, if we round it up to 8, 8 times 3 is 24, right? And we rounded it up, so it's going to be a tiny, tiny bit below that, right? So it does sort of make sense. Red then, hardest one. Again, circumference. So regardless of the question, I'm writing down the formula. C equals pi times diameter. Now I'm trying to find circumference, so that's fine. Pi I know. For this one, you have to be careful, right? Diameter, I don't actually know at the moment. You'll notice, rather than going all the way across, this only goes halfway, right? That's actually a radius. Now, the link which I said was present between the radius and the diameter was that 2 lots of the radius make up a diameter. So what you need to do to that 4, because our formula tells us I need diameter, you need to double it to get 8. Okay, so be careful for them harder ones. Always have to have diameter. So if they give you the radius, double it to get 8. And then you do it exactly the same as we were doing the previous ones, 8 pi, and you get 25.1, right? So summary-wise, what you need to remember, always keep to the same sort of structure for these questions. Formula, first of all, as soon as it says the word circumference, you're writing down C equals pi times diameter. Then your workings, so you put your numbers in place of the diameter, and then your answer goes at the end.